For the longest time, I've wanted to check out the Opel Corsa Sport, and to my surprise also, brand new to the South African market, a recently landed Corsa GSI was available at Williams Hunt Fourways, all there and ready to sample at their Arrive and Drive event that was held recently at their dealership. Oh, Williams Hunt Fourways, you beautiful, beautiful dealership, you. So big ups to them for understanding the philosophy of bums and seats and holding a pretty nice day indeed. So, ladies and gents, why do I feel the Opel Corsa Sport and Corsa GSI make sense? Now, in a South African context and landscape, let me say, the VW GTI moniker rules the roost when it comes to the warmer hot hatch market. In a lot of South African minds, the only way is with GTI, and a few other little cars as well. People love the GTI, both in Polo and Golf fascia, but the way I see it, it's really the image that people are more into rather than the actual merit performance of the vehicle. In spite of that though, the GTI moniker is great, I do respect it indeed, I think they're well done vehicles. However, I feel lately Opel has spoken to me more in this respect. Looking at European vehicles really, I mean I've only driven in terms of German cars, the VWs and the Opels. The others, not so much, so I'm just gonna judge based upon what I have driven in here. Case in point, the very first Opel I ever drove was the Adam on the Kyalami go-kart racetrack, and it was an absolute hoot to drive, and this was at Festival of Motoring last year, link in the description below for that video. I think it comes as no surprise that I quite like cheeky cars, and with the Opels I've seen, although had that German refinement, really had that cheekiness to them, and that's something I really quite like. So let's chat quickly about the Corsa Sport. Subtle yet sporty styling, 5 doors, a 1.4 litre turbo lump, pushing out 110 kilowatts and around 200 Newton meters of torque. Pumping and amazing infotainment system, space in the back, big boot and wide seats, and that's all the specs I'm actually going to be spitting out right now, but I'll get more into the opinionated part of this right now. You jump in, you drive, and this car is an intuitive affair. Apart from the high clutch biting point, the driving ergonomics are easy and sport orientated. The steering is decently weighted with an option to change the weight for when you want to make parking easier, let's say if you're in a city setting. The South African bumpy roads are handled well with the 17-inch wheels riding on Continental Premium Context tires. Although it's lower than a standard Corsa, the suspension tuning is on the softer side for more daily driving dealings. I didn't really feel all that much electronic nanny interference, but then again I didn't hammer the car too hard. However, we are driving this on the streets, so bear in mind that I can't actually push it all that hard. Unless if it was in a track setting. More on that later. Speaking of the hammer, the way the boost from the turbo comes in is equivalent to what I'd expect from an early 2000s vehicle, but with the modern type of smoothness to it. There's no speakers in the cabin to enhance the sound either, thank you very much for that. It's all straight engined, although it could have sounded a little bit nicer, but hey, that's nothing an induction pipe can't do. This car has simplicity written on it, and in all that simplicity, it makes it such a pleasurable vehicle to drive. There's enough power here to have fun. Boost comes on strong and it's enough to leave a smirk on your face. The only other things I'd change would be the seats to something that hugs more, as well as have the steering wheel tilt a little bit lower because it's really on the high side. The Corsa Sport, in my opinion, is really quite the gem and it's pretty underrated. It's definitely worth a drive, I say, so go and check one out. Oh, now we're getting to the big one, the Corsa GSI. Alright, picture this. Take the Corsa Sport, in fact take the two-door Corsa based upon the OPC platform, use it as a base, make it sharper and refine the driving dynamics, and there you have it, you have a GSI. Now also imagine this, it's pretty rare for me to drive a car twice on a test drive day. The Corsa GSI had that magic essentially. You get the same 1.4 turbo lump, but the tuning on the car is different. The turbo doesn't shunt as hard as a Sport, but it comes onto power in a more linear and spread out fashion. But it builds up momentum quickly, that's the catch with it. To have the handling aid in that linear power delivery, you have stiffer suspension transferring that 110 kilowatts through 19-inch, and yes, those are huge, 19-inch OPC wheels on Michi Pilot Sport 4s. Now, that is a very sticky tire, and this is a very little and nippy car, so this is essentially a dot. And yeah, this car can stick on the road according to my little test area around the area for cornering. The GSI is a pleasure to drive in a spirited manner, and my word, this car is so easy to heel and tow, it's unbelievable. The Recaro seats, oh, those things are magnifique, and the styling be something to make the eyes follow as it drives past. It's calm enough to drive on the daily, but cheeky enough to have some fun with, and it is comfortable enough that you'd want to daily it, but really I'd reserve this car more for track use, I'd say. The GSI took the Corsa Sport and tuned it to be that much nicer, and I adore it as a result in a track setting, let me say more of a sports fashion. For me personally though, I'd stick with the 17-inch wheels, and we're pretty much golden there, apart from, you know, if you're going to be using it for daily use, it's going to be a little bit on the harsher side for you. But it's comfortable enough to do it, but it's not exactly for everyone, I'd say.
Have you guys ever driven the OPC?
Nope.
Because the OPC and the...
So when you think of the term sports hatch and when you jump into these vehicles and drive them, you see why the Corsa Sport and GSI make sense. These are cars you have to drive to understand. They do their purpose well, and at least for me, clicked when I drove them. And that's the biggest thing. When a car clicks with you when you drive it, that's how you know it's a good car. If things are not making sense, then really the car is not speaking to you. But then again, people have different tastes. That's why reviewers exist. The Corsa Sport is especially quite the underrated warm hatch in the market today, and seriously, if you want something German and different to a VW Polo, then this is pretty much what you should give a chance. And I honestly feel that these two vehicles should be at the Festival of Motoring this year in 2019, because really, if these cars were on the go-kart circuit for people to try out, hammer, and, you know, have fun with the vehicles, that's what's going to really push these cars out, in my opinion. So Opel, I think you guys should put those cars there, and yeah, I'm definitely gonna drive one if it's there, that's for certain. Now, the last thing that I can say about these two lovely cars here, the Corsa Sport and the GSI, they can have a bit of a friendly competition with a rival. Oh no, it's not just any rival, I would say. It's a rival with the diamond-shaped S. However, that's a video comparison for another day. I quite like some healthy competition, so I'll compare those cars if I get the chance to. But anyways, guys, drive your thoughts.